like Jeffrey Dahmer. Be careful, try not to lead her on. Shorty heart is on still.
Can you please describe your childhood? Looking back now, are there specific events that you can remember that may have contributed to you committing these crimes? Did you have any early indicators of a murderer?
So, as an infant, my mother refused to feed me and she neglected me. And then she later became mentally ill and she tried to kill herself with the pills that she was addicted to. And then my parents fought all the time. They eventually got divorced, but I didn't really have any friends in school. I was pretty lonely. But I took an interest in animals and their anatomy, and I really liked the sound the bones made when they rubbed together. But in high school, I began drinking a little bit, became a little bit of an addict. But I played tennis still, and I realized that I was a homosexual in about middle school.
What is the highest level of education that you received? Did you graduate high school? Did you go to college?
So I graduated from Revere High School in 1978 with average grades. But I attended Ohio State for like 1 year, but I never actually finished. It was just not for me.
Can you give us a description of your work history?
In 1979, I joined the Army because my dad made me as a medical specialist. And I eventually got discharged in 1981 because I raped my fellow soldiers and I had an alcohol addiction. And so when I got discharged, I went to Florida, I went to Miami, and I worked at a sandwich shop for a couple months, and I lived at a motel, but then I later got kicked out of my motel because I didn't pay anything, and I spent most of my money on alcohol. And then when I went back to Milwaukee in 1982, I worked as a phlebotomist at a Milwaukee blood plasma center. And I later got fired from that job because of all my arrests that happened during that job. And in 1985, I worked at the Milwaukee Ambrosia chocolate factory. And then I later got fired because I was arrested.
Prior to the murders, would you say you had a healthy social life? Were you married with children? Did you live alone, or did you have many friends?
I was an outcast my whole life. I had no real relationships. But I was a class clown, and I would stage pranks of me having seizures or throwing things around to get attention from my classmates, and that was the only way people actually paid attention and enjoyed me. But at the end of high school, I lived alone after my parents divorced, and they both moved out.
Can you explain to us the first time you killed? Who were the victims? Why did you select them, and where did it happen? What was your motivation, and how many people would you admit to killing?
So my first killing was in 1978 when I was 18. His name was Stephen Hicks, and he was a hitchhiker. I picked him up when he was trying to go to a rock concert, but I convinced him to come to my house for a couple of drinks before he went. And so he came to my house, and I ended up strangling him with a dumbbell, and he died. And so I took off his clothes and masturbated over his corpse. And then after that, I let him sit out for a couple days, and I dissected his body. And then I buried him in a little shallow grave, but then I later dug him up and paired the flesh with the bones. And I dissolved the flesh in acid, and I broke all the bones with a sledgehammer and put them all over my backyard. But all of my killings, there was 17 in total, they were all men, and it was all so I could rape them, and I enjoyed eating their dead bodies.
Criminal profilers believe that many serial killers leave a signature at the crime scene. Can you explain yours if you have one?
So because I lured most of my victims in from like gay bars to my house, I didn't really leave a mark or a symbol because it was my own house, and I would later just eat their body, so nobody really could see a trace of what actually happened.
Did you eventually stand trial, or did you take a plea bargain? Were you sentenced to life in prison, or did you receive the death penalty?
So I pleaded guilty but insane, and said I had necrophilia, borderline personality disorder, schizotypic personality disorder, alcohol dependence, and a psychotic disorder, and antisocial personality. But I was later proven sane at the time of my murders and was sentenced to life imprisonment plus 70 years. But while I was in jail, I got beaten to death by one of my inmates, and I died. Okay.
Rolling.
Hello. Hey, Miss Bourbon. I just want to say, I did Jeffrey Dahmer last year, and mine's better. Shout out to what period did I have? Shout out third period, gang. We came in there, we did what we need to do. We did a Jeffrey Dahmer. Third period, gang. So it's tee up, man.
Third period.
Yeah, no, third period. I just want to say, are you Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yeah.
I was better. I filmed and recorded, but ours is better. Miss Bourbon, comment down below if you think my video was better than theirs. Thank you.
And at the end.